Starsınız ayol.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the Swedish Palace. This is now almost 9 months since we launched this project here in the Palace. It's a marvelous and interesting project in collaboration with Sabancı University in I'm very pleased to hear that we have some success to report now on this beautiful May day. We are now kicking off the second phase of the Independent Women Directors project. And again, it was thanks to Sabancı University and the professional support of Evan Zender and our money from the Swedish Consulate General that enabled us to do this. As you know, we have a section for Turkish-Swedish cooperation, and Seven is heading this section together with me. And this section is governed by the Swedish government's strategy, cooperation strategy for Turkey, which is valid 2010 until 2013. There are now discussions on extending this. And the overall mission is to support the reform process in Turkey, with the ultimate goal to help Turkey to become a member of the European Union at some point. So specifically we are to support projects and initiatives in 3 fields, mainly gender equality, democracy and human rights. That's a rather wide scope, of course, but that's the framework for our strategy. And we are to promote a dialogue on these issues in Turkish society. So therefore, our funds and support goes to NGOs, various organizations and institutions involved in projects that are doing work in this regard. Obviously, we do not make our projects on our own. We need Turkish society to do it. And it's a fascinating thing, actually, because there's a tremendous amount, there are many good projects coming to our section. We have 3 periods every year for applications. And I think the quality of the projects proposed are also increasing, actually year by year. I've been here for almost 5 years, so I've seen this trend, and it's very, very heartening. It makes me happy to see this. Now, this project, of course, it's a bit special because it's it's the private sector, and it's Sabancı University and ourselves. And the idea behind it was, of course, that we should try to change the prejudices against professional women. And that is not just a problem in Turkey, it's a global problem. Sweden does fairly well. We don't have any quotations or laws like Norway. I think we are somewhere at 27% of all members in Sweden are female, which is not good enough, but certainly not too bad either if you compare to other countries. But what is very clear that it has been discovered that there is a difference, there is a quality improvement in the boards if you have a mixed gender of the boards, and the boards become better functioning. And there are also many studies showing that men and women think differently and act differently in many situations, but also, of course, in board situations. So that's obvious. I mean, if you want the company to work well, you need to have diversified views and people who actually challenge the proposals the company can make. So, I mean, apart from the gender aspect, it's also our aim to draw the attention to stimulate a discussion on how boards actually work. So today I'm informed we have two very prominent professional women among us who have been appointed to board positions, and I'd like to congratulate you for this indeed, and wish you all the best. And we hope that we can continue this trend. This project will be ongoing, but you know, in the end, it should not be needed anymore. A great sign of success is that we don't need capital projects, but maybe we have to go on for some time before we achieve that. So once again, a warm welcome. Enjoy yourself. Now I'll give the floor to people who are next in line to speak. Please.
Yes, well, I had a lot of this project anyway. I continue in English then. Yeah, well, I wish you all welcome. Also, of course, our Consul General, he summarized everything. I'm also very happy to see this project being implemented. It's a little bit different project for us, because usually we do projects in other socioeconomical segments. But gender equality is, of course, a very important issue, even among businesswomen. So, and as Mr. Shandev said, it's also a way for us to contribute to the discussion of how boards actually function. There are different opinions of that, and with this project, we like to see it flourish, this discussion, which I have also noticed that it has, because there are many other projects like this one now that are being implemented. We hear them. So, and this was our aim, so we are, of course, very happy and wish this project all the success.
Sabancı University, from the very first day of our creation, has said we didn't want to be a ivory tower. We want to be engaged in the important issues facing both the world and Turkey. We cannot, as a country, develop with 50% of our women, of our population, not 100% engaged in the economy. We are 100% behind this project. I want to thank NASA for her leadership, and I want to thank all of you for your support. It's wonderful to see already the success, and I hope we'll see the day when we no longer need these kinds of projects, where it will just happen naturally.
Thank you. Our target is 2015 with no companies without women on their boards, and 20% representation of women in corporate boards in Turkey. And if we can achieve those in 2015, then we can close the project and let our newly appointed directors to take the purpose of the project further and increase the percentages. We just had the advisory board meeting before this meeting, and except our newly appointed directors and our esteemed guest, Dr. Aras, maybe I should say a few words about why we think the project has been a success. Just a few words, and then I will ask our newly appointed directors to say a few words, and we'll continue with more experienced directors and with Dr. Aras to also comment on the importance of functioning, better functioning boards. Very briefly, since not all the companies have completed their general assemblies, based on Belgin's studies and research on the data on general assemblies of listed companies, we have recorded an increase from 10.11% to 11.96% of women on corporate boards. So the increase is 1.85 basis points. It looks like, on a percentage-wise, a good increase, but if we keep going this way,
we will not achieve our objective of 25% in 2 years and no companies without a women director in 2050. But we've observed an interesting change that among the newly appointed directors there are more women compared to previous years, and also more of the women who are elected on the boards are independent compared to newly appointed male directors. So we see an increase from 1.49% to 2.28% with respect to the percentage of independent women directors in Turkey's corporate boards. And this is percentage-wise a good increase, but on basis points, of course, it's still, because it's starting from a very low base, it is not satisfactory. But I think what we see based on 286 companies is that our message that independent directors are important and nominating women to those positions would give a good message to the investment community and to the community in large that women are good candidates for independent director positions. They're not a part of male networks, and we hope that their presence will help improve the functioning of corporate boards in Turkey. So having said that, I'd like to thank to our sponsor and our partner, obviously, Gonzalo International, for being with us on this journey together. Without their support, we wouldn't have achieved what we have achieved, which is not, of course, satisfactory, which is not enough. But we see that there are more and more projects are being launched, as Selim said, on the importance of women being on corporate boards, and we'll continue to intensify our efforts until we achieve our objective. So, now I'd like to turn to our newly appointed directors and would like to hear from them whether they've already joined the meeting, whether they've been on a board meeting as a non-executive director in your case, an independent director in your case. How does it feel? Do you feel marginalized? What are your hopes to make sure that you'll fulfill your responsibilities as a director? And what would you like to share with us? Should we start from close by here?
Thank you so much. First of all, it's a great and I would like to thank everyone for giving the opportunity. Yes, I am a very fresh board member, and really it feels interesting to be on the other side of the table, because for years I have been on the other side of the table, and now being a board member, I am a board member for Eczacıbaşı in Tema. And as you may know, Eczacıbaşı Group is already running a few other initiatives to really encourage women leadership and their active participation to decision making. So this is also along the whole context. Yes, I have joined one, and of course I cannot say I was fully active, because first I have to understand the business environment, because I'm coming from pharmaceuticals. I'm the general manager for Eczacıbaşı Baxter, and all my career is in the pharmaceutical business. So this is great, very exciting for me to be included in a board which is totally an unknown for me. But what I revealed is really interesting to be able to look at something you don't know. And
what company is that? I forgot.
Eczacıbaşı in Tema.
The other one.
The other one. So now for the first time for many years I'm looking to a totally new company from totally new business environment with the whole background I have. So other than being a board member, I think this is the most exciting thing for me, to understand what is this business all about and how I can contribute to that business as a board member. So I was more listening, but I can say that I have a lot of hopes that I can contribute more in the coming meetings. As in many places we are discussing about the ratios, numbers, and so on, Yes, of course they are important. Having 1 member, 2 members, 3 members, these are important. But in fact, I think really what it means and what role those members take is the most important thing. So in Eczacıbaşı Group, our main purpose is really to give an active role to those women in the boards and to realize that. So more than the numbers, the contribution is very much promoted. So in that context, I think I will be much more productive in the coming board meetings. And individually, I have been always, as a woman, very naturally, as a woman, I have been always very much on the side of encouraging women leadership in the companies I have been working for. Also now it goes hand in hand. We have already started the women leadership platform in Eczacıbaşı Baxter as well. So I think it will be also a very nice fit when I'm taking a role in the board of Eczacıbaşı İntema. On the other hand, I am running the women leadership platform in my company. So it is a really good fit and good timing. And I will bring what I learned from Eczacıbaşı İntema as well. I think this kind of diversity is great, not only because of being a woman or a man. It's very nice to have this diversity of different businesses, different business experiences in the board. So this will also help me to bring new know-how to my company, also to bring some contribution to Eczacıbaşı İntema. That's all I feel, but it's very fresh. If I change my mind in the coming, that's just a joke, but really I enjoy it.
Are you the only woman?
Yes, I'm the only woman.
Right.
And yeah, that also feels nice.
Better than me.
Confessions.
How many are there at the board?
We are 6.
Yeah, just taking the words,
Yes.
I can start with the first experience. Was not actually me myself, but the vice chairman of the board, because he was just starting the board meeting saying, beyler. And then he just realized and said, beyler, bayan. That was the first start. And I had 1 meeting, and next week will be the second one. I'm from Garanti Bank actually, but since I fulfilled the requirement of not having with the bank, with the company for 5 years, I had the chance of being independent board member in this sense, because it was almost 7 years or so because after that I left the bank. Meanwhile, I had a great experience in private sector, which really I would like to have when I was with the bank. So that's going to be another good point of view in my work with the company, with the bank. We are 10 right now together with me, so, and only 1 woman. The bank's employers, the number of employers with all the retirees and everybody, it's almost around 40,000 maybe. So, and 60% are women, the retired and now the currently working and so on. And because I was with the bank for 25 years, I'm quite known in this management style. So I just take the lead of being a good example for them, the ones that are working right now, and maybe just meaning some sort of career path in front of them, having some position, top management in the board and so on. Thank you for all these precious efforts, really. I appreciate, and for all of us, I know that your support was the one of the strength points just behind this.
We know that the women or female employees in companies are more motivated if they see women appointed to the board. So it would be interesting to see how your appointment would have an effect on Garanti Bank's management, women management and women employees. So good luck.
But 60% women makes me think that 6 out of 10 should be women in the board. Automatically, kind of, you know, charged, inspired me in that direction.
Well, the tendency actually was, you know, the representation of shareholders in the board previously. Now it's going to change, I hope. It's changing. It's changing.
That percentage reflects the whole banking sector, not only Garanti.
The whole banking sector, right?
Very female.
Yeah, it's dominated sector. It's one of the really women-dominated sector. Well, banking sector is
are women better?
one of the sectors, no, integrated in the maybe international business atmosphere. Maybe it's that. For years and years, I mean, this started. I remember in 90s, maybe the first that women managers took the lead in branch management and then coming to head office levels and executive vice president and so
Actually,
on.
I started in '79 at the Central Bank,
Yeah.
and that was the case.
Even then?
Even then, that was the case.
Even then.
But, sorry for interrupting, but women can go up the ladder to some level, and my experiences at the Central Bank of Turkey, even at the general management level, it is okay to be a woman, but from there on, which makes the post either a vice governor or a board member, then that stops. I cannot recall any female name at the Central Bank board up to now, never. Although it is still no, and I don't think that it will ever happen from now onwards.
And as a risk expert, you know that women have different risk profiles. So perhaps having that diversity on management of the boards of the banks are probably more important than diversity of boards in other sectors.
Sure.
But coming from Seman to you, you're not the only woman in the board. So your company, on which you're an independent board member, has appointed a second independent board member.
That's
so have you come together as a board with 3 women? So there are 3 women in your board, and does it make any difference?
Which board?
Okay, this is Tukas.
That's right.
Yes, it's a holding company. Majority is owned by Aksoy family. One of the board members is from the family, Banu, who is educated for the company actually, and very well educated, very aware of corporate governance issues. Up to now, in all our board meetings, we were only 2 women, Banu and myself. Neslihan had recently joined. And how I see it, Neslihan talks, yes, from Bank of America, Bank of New York.
Just joined.
Just joined, yeah.
She just joined?
Yeah. She replaced Mehmet Sani because Mehmet Sani was appointed to was not able to continue. Yeah, so we are now 3, but we haven't had a board meeting yet with 3 of us involved, so it's just 7 members, and out of 7 it is 3 women, and I think it is the only one in Turkey in terms of percentage. Yeah, the highest percentage.
2 independent women directors.
2 independent, yeah, there are 2 independents and we are both women. And 1 executive is also women, so it is really nice.
But maybe you would like to also say a few things about your own experiences being a female executive, female board member in a company. Because our research also shows that when there are female members affiliated with the families, controlling families, we don't see any other women on the board. So it's interesting. So women are more present in companies where there is no family ownership. When there is family ownership and there is a female member representing the family on the board, we don't see any other woman on the board. So it's interesting that in that company you have a female board member and you as an outsider on the board. What are your experiences in terms of being on the board as a woman? Have you ever brought in different perspectives?
No, I do not realize that there is any difference between being a man or a woman in this kind of a profession. We are lucky as women to achieve, or it's not like achievement, but to be able to bring down the obstacles in front of us and to be able to move up the ladder. I combine luck and being in the right place at the right time to those things. But also I have experience in being a board member in Fitch Ratings, which is a British company, especially the one that I was being a board member to. The situation is not any different. I was the only woman there, and man dominance was more strong in a UK company, I would say, whereas a woman can be more vocal in a Turkish company, and I feel like it is more respected. Yeah. I have been there for 13 years, so this is my strange experience. It sounds strange to many people, but it is a reality, and I think it is very unique again to the financial sector.
Shall we turn to another financial sector company, the Green Bank, and ask Füsun? You have been on the board for a long time. Now you're an independent director. So how do you feel to be only women on the board? And now you have other women joining you.
Minority is not a good thing, first of all. I mean, to be a one, I have to say. But now we are three independent women in our.
So you're not the only one.
How many? Three.
How many?
11. And two is the Italian and one from our the residents of Turkey. So, I mean, how we behave as a woman in the board, I think the competence is very important. To dedicate it, to be trusty, to be accountable are very important factors. Not only a woman, but for all board members, but for a woman especially, I think the competence, working hard, spending a lot of time, well prepared to the board is very important because all eyes are on you. I mean, so it's very important. It's a very good thing, but it's very good because the motivation of there are a lot of women, more than 60% of the banking sector is women. To be a woman board member, to be a role model, motivation of the people, the work is very important. It's another point for my thinking.
Interesting that you emphasized the behavior of female board members on the board. The research also shows that when women join the board, men attend the meetings more frequently, so less I don't know if they enjoy being in an environment where there are women as well, but presence of women improves the efficiency of boards working according to the data from Norway, which makes implemented a quota system for board members. Fantastic. So you're not the only
Because
country to
inherently, I think,
That's true.
inherently, I think the woman is different than the man.
Yeah.
So because of more passions, more careful with something, so these are increase a lot of efficiency of the board.
Exactly. I think the trust factor is also important because when we look into the board data in Turkey, we see that among female members there are more audit committee members, which means the boards trust women more and therefore appoint them to audit committees.
I am chief audit committee member and member in both boards, in Dubai Star and also Turkas.
Exactly.
And the risk committee.
And this is not unique to Turkey. We also see the same tendency in other countries as well. Women directors are represented in committees more than men. It shows that even the male colleagues trust women more. Okay, well, we'll turn now to give them the chair of our advisory board member, many, many heads, but also an independent board member in a few companies.
Thank you. Thank you for the word. I'm an independent board member for Martı Hotels and Martı, the investment company of Martı at the stock exchange. I'm one of the two independent board members. One is male, one is me. But we have altogether 3 women, the family members, 2 family members. Are board members, they are my friends. So, what does that mean? I don't know as to the independence, but I act independent enough in their opinion, so it works. But rather than gender, which is very close to my heart, I very much value the working of the boards in the corporations, whether it's a family corporation or a corporation. It exists in both cases that the boards needs to work as a board, first of all. This is a priority for our wisdom. This is a priority for the sustainability of that organization. And then, if that works, I find it very natural that women will come along because they need different opinions, they need different views, they need risk assessment, which women are, by academic definition, are very well aware of risks. So I think these studies need to go hand in hand to have more gender diverse boards, as well as functioning boards that are really working boards. I value that very much, because I have prepared a 45-minute speech, Leila, for this issue. But then I will go back to 1990, which is my first board membership appointment in ABB. I joined the ABB. Swedish ABB. Swedish ABB. Swedish ABB.
Swedish, I said.
Both.
Now both. Then?
Always both.
It was always both? Okay. So we'll give
I joined this American. I joined ABB and there was a country manager and a lot of companies, acquisitions, many problems. They bought this company from this gentleman who were the ex-distributor, that company from that gentleman who were the ex-distributor, many problems, many companies. But they have made an organization. Swedes are great to organize, and the country manager was a Swedish person, very respectable Swedish person. And he said, we had 4 general managers, 4 controllers, an outside legal counsel, and himself. And he said, I don't want to hear this Turkish companies and things. Okay, we have to have a board, and we will replicate that board in every company. So I will choose my own board. And there were a lot of people from outside Turkey coming to Turkey to supervise the investments and things like that. And he said, okay, I got my board from Turkey. It's me, it's 2 ABB guys from outside, and do that. Of course, he told me that I will be elected to the board. I said, okay, because I thought there are 10 more people to be elected to the board. So I said, okay, I'm one of them. And then, based on this declaration that I'm elected to the board, I started receiving visits to my desk. First of all, head of legal counsel came and said, shame on you, how come you became elected and I'm not on the board? I said, you were going to congratulate me and this is the topic, okay. And then there were 4 general managers who were elected and there were 3 controllers who were elected. And I decided after this much applaud to my appointment, I decided to go to the country manager and ask, what have you done? And he said, no, I have done a very good decision because you're an independent woman to say what you are going to say. I don't want a yes-man board anywhere in this corporation because we have to work. And that's what I believe that the boards are for, and I try to continue to do that.
Fantastic. I remember many years ago when I was living in the UK at the time and working with International Business Leaders Forum, we came to visit you on a research for corruption in Turkey. And I remember me and my colleague at the time, after interviewing you, wow, you know, there is a strong movement to say zero corruption and zero tolerance. And this causing problems obviously for ABB, but that's how we're going to continue. And I do think that women do have a different perspective on issues related with company social impact. I know I'm not going to name some of the directors here, but we know that some of the directors have been instrumental in making sure that the board decisions have been pretty much in line with a good understanding of the board's decisions' impact on the society and environment. They've been instrumental in changing the decisions of the board. Of course, I can't name them here, but they know who I'm talking about. So what we also expect with this trend of having more women on the boards we expect to be more responsive to the company's impact on the environment and on the society at large. So the research also shows that women directors are more stakeholder-oriented. They are more concerned about the environment and the employee issues as well. So that's, having said that, we think women's presence in the boards will also change the way the corporations behave. Fantastic, and now we'll turn to Dr. Ross.
I don't know what to say.
Briefly work in this process.
We should be inspired enough by now.
I'm very careful.
Sharing a very important value.
To be used against you anyway.
Thank you for inviting me. And let me say a few words about the composition of the boards and the trends that we see. I think women on the board is the outcome of the process and of the trends that we're seeing. If you look at the Turkish business history, let's say the last 10 years and the 10 years before that and the 10 years before that, if you look at the evolution, we see a lot of changes. And if you look at the composition of the boards, I think Gülden's point was very valid as the effectiveness of the board. Is the board really functioning? Is it really doing what it's supposed to do? Or is it just a bunch of appointed people sitting there as a board and doing not doing much? So if we look at the history and who appointed these board members in the past and still in some of the companies, the big boss, the founder, appoints his friends, and most of the time the founder is a man, so he appoints his men friends who he trusts, they're loyal people, they're fully dependent financially or whatever. So they have a board. Now, is that board functioning? Maybe to a certain extent, but very limited. But if you look at the trends as to what's happening in the markets, let's say the number of publicly traded companies are increasing. The offerings to the stock market is increasing, as well as the integration with the world markets. And Also, the composition of the shareholderships are changing in many industries. Foreign partnerships are coming in, the new acquisitions are made by international companies, 50-50 partnerships or majority ownerships of the international investors and so on. And there's also another trend, which is the next generation of the father. The father is getting old, and the second generation is coming into the, let's say, to the management. And at the same time, the regulators are changing. Like the Capital Markets Board is asking independent board members for the publicly traded companies in different kind of categories and so on and so forth. But all these concepts are quite new for our markets. Even, for example, the Banking Regulatory Agency, the BRSA, is defining the independent board member differently than Capital Markets Board, and they're in two different extremes. So we still have this kind of a, let's say, a chaotic situation, but there is a definite trend towards a change at the board level. Because they're publicly traded, because there are foreign partnerships, because the corporate governance is becoming more and more important. Therefore, we're seeing a major change in the composition and the quality of the boards and the separation of duties of the executive team and the board, which is really the supervisory and strategic level decision-making process. So in that sense, I think we will see this change, and this change will bring in the quality people to the boards. When we say quality people, then we will see obviously women represented there in equal amounts, or 50-50, 20%, 50%. I don't think there is a prejudice against women. If you look at the top management of, let's say, in our industry, it was mentioned, I have some statistics. I asked my personnel manager to give me some statistics. In the Turkish banking industry, 50.5% are women, 49.5% is men, so it's like 51-49 almost. But in our bank, for example, it's 54% women, 46% men overall. When we look at the top management, assistant general managers, we're talking about 23% women. And when we go to the board level in our bank, we don't have a woman, but in our subsidiaries, we have about 8% women. And one of our companies have a chairman of the board as a woman. In our factoring company, for example, and our general manager is a woman. So the company's chairman is a woman, and the general manager is a woman. But I think when we experience the change over time, we're going to see more women and more diversity in the board level. And this diversity is going to come from knowledge diversity, skill set diversity, experience diversity. All these things are going to bring more quality to the board levels. And then when we look at the boards, we would like to see some people at the board as change agents. They should be able to propose some changes rather than yes-man type of board members and do that was mentioning, or business as usual type of people. So they have to have new ideas, generation of new ideas should be coming from the board members. And also, there should be a lot of respect for each other. I think that's another important thing, as to being able to tolerate and respect the other's opinion and come up with some kind of a decision from that process in a healthy way. And it has to be also more results oriented, because most of the boards, they meet 2 hours, 3 hours, and they end. They basically do some procedural stuff. There's not really much happening in terms of what did we do in today's meeting. If you look at it, there's not much achieved. But in terms of decision making and effectiveness and focus, so result-oriented people should be at the board level. And at the same time, the board level, board members, women or men, should educate themselves about the industry they're in, about the company that they're sitting on the board of. If you're, as a board member, a newly appointed board member, for example, today has very limited knowledge about the sector as well as the company. A year from now, hopefully, she will know much more. So what we do, for example, for our board members, when they first join, I run an orientation program. I put the board member exactly on a 1-month orientation program, visiting every single department for almost a day, and having presentations made to this board member. He gets to know the people and so on. Because from board member to board member, from board meeting to board meeting, you don't get much. You really have to go and see the people, meet them, feel how they act and behave. I think my personal experience is quite an interesting one because we started Finance Bank in 1987 with Hüsnü Bey and myself and a secretary, 3 of us, in a lawyer's office. And 19 years later, the bank was sold to a Greek National Bank of Greece. And I continued with the bank during the first 19 years. Hüsnü Bey was the chairman, I was the vice chairman. And then he left, I became the chairman, and it's continuing. But the organization made a big change in terms of corporate governance and separation of duties of the shareholder as well as the executive team. And that brought a lot of success, even though there is tremendous amount of problems in Greece in terms of their macroeconomic problems and banking sector and so on. Finance Bank's growth here continued independently in a very healthy way. And that is because we separated the board and the executive power of the organization. Because we see other examples in the market where the foreign capital comes in, changes the management, changes the name of the institution, the color of the institution. An example can be given in the Dış Bank, which was a blue bank, it became a red bank called the Corpus Bank, and then later on, because of problems in Europe, they merged into BNP Paribas and disappeared. So I think, but in our experience, we don't have women on the board at this point in the bank. As I said, in our subsidiaries, we have women. Hopefully we will have them next time we have an election, which is next year, hopefully. But we do have independent board members. There are no dependency whatsoever to the bank, international as well as local. And I think this is the key issue. I mean, if we are looking for quality, and if we have quality people in the organization as women, as assistant general managers, they will become natural board members in the future. Just to give you an example, in our top management, the most important thing in a bank is the credit extension. Who are we going to give the loans to? That process is run by a woman in our bank. Another important function is risk management. Again, a woman is running that function. Another very important point is where do we fund the bank besides deposits or international borrowings. Again, Özlem is running that as a woman. So we give all the key points to the women, and the men are doing the rest. Basically, the operational work and the purchasing. So that is true. I mean, that I think is very critical. I also looked at the turnover. In the turnover, I haven't seen, there is no significant, in our organization, statistical difference between men and women. I was expecting maybe there would be less turnover in women, but that wasn't the case. And in terms of education levels, higher degree and so on, women are better educated in general.
How about the pay structure? How equal is the pay for the same position?
I guess the salary, the rest of it.
Huh?
Well, there is no difference whatsoever. If anything, women get, I mean, in our organization, in the banking industry, in general, there is no men or women difference. It's basically the same. Actually, women did dominate.
Performance.
Performance-based.
And in general, we also see that the education level of women directors are higher in the Turkish world.
And also age. And also age.
They are younger. Women are younger and they are better educated when we compare female directors with male directors in the Turkish case. And it's also the same around the world. On average, the female directors have better education.
I think the reason why women are more, I mean, there is a lot of women in the banking industry is because, first of all, the location issue. I mean, generally banks are located in convenient places. I mean, if you're working in a branch or head office, they're downtown, or you don't have to go all the way to 40 miles out of the town to a factory or something like that. Second, there's a lot of one-to-one human contact and relationship management where women are very, very strong in the branch manager level and relationship issues. And also there's a lot of detail and accuracy in our business, which is very important because women are much more precise and picky men are a bit more sloppy in general. But I think the board level, I think we're, as I said at the beginning of my thoughts, I said the trend is very important. The quality of the boards are changing. I think it would be interesting to make a study to see how are the top companies in Turkey, let's say the top 100 or 500 board members are appointed. Are they really appointed by what kind of a mechanism? And then you'll see that that's basically, we have this certain kind of boards that are windows. Basically, it's like a vitrine type of a board. And there are some functioning boards. So I think there should be a study showing how can we identify the functioning boards and, let's say, the window type of boards. There are a lot of window type of boards. So I strongly suggest that we should try to push women into the boards that are functioning rather than just be there.
Or when they enter the board, try to make them functional.
Something change, huh?
So that's the underlying objective in our project, that through women we hope that boards will become more effective and better working boards. Well, how about our partner Murat? You've been working with us in this process. We've met with more companies, more board members, trying to promote the idea that boards should be diverse for the benefits of companies. What is your take on this process after working with us for 9 months now? Do you see a change? Can you also observe? You also observe a trend, as Ömer Bey mentioned.
Well, I think I do agree and echo most of the things underlined by Ömer Bey, in the sense that when we started this project, it was more about gender diversity. But as it developed, when we started meeting the chairman of the board, they started discussing with us, yes, gender diversity is important, but corporate governance is more important. And gender diversity is a natural output of corporate governance. At least that's how it's translated. And I do give credit to that, I must say, it's true. Having said that, I mean, I'm an engineer by background. I did study economics as postgraduate. But one of the things, few things I learned in economics, Keynes has a saying, in the long run we are all dead. Therefore, if we wait for the perfect...
You need to read Keynes.
if we need to wait for the perfect mechanism where the corporate governance dominates, and if we wait for the natural movement in the boards for full gender diversity, I think we have to wait a long time. Therefore, all of the stakeholders have to make a proactive action. As we were discussing before this meeting, as Sheryl Sandberg puts it, women should be in it, that's for sure. Women should be more proactive, women should be more visible. But more importantly, I tell to each and every candidate, women should be good in what they are doing, because as we also discussed with you, when chairmen are looking for female candidates, they're not looking for good women, they are looking for functional women who could satisfy a certain need in the board. So it's not just like checking a mark, but they're looking for someone who's good in what he or she is doing, or what she is doing in this case. Therefore, women should be good in what they are doing. They should present themselves and be more visible. I think the lean-in comes in on that point. The second thing I learned, I truly believe in sponsorships, male or female sponsorships. And that's why I think this meeting is important, because the female board members going into a board, just as in the case of Turkas and maybe now in Garanti and in Tema, they should be pulling in more women, advocating this idea, and bring the merits of diversity at the board level. I think that will be a clear advantage. Last but not the least, I've been saying this from the beginning of this project, the starfish, what we are doing now, we are putting many or few, from where you look at it, starfish back to the sea. And I think these are role models. And going back to what you're saying, if Garanti Bank performs better at the end of this fiscal, we can get some credit out of that, not me, but you. Same goes for ITEMA, same goes for Turkas. And I think that should be also promoted, because I fully agree with what you're saying. Women are more diligent, especially at the board level, in what they are doing. Because of the old man network, old boys network, as you put it forward, I don't think men or male board members are as vocal as women. They want to go in the way of the chairman, whereas women, they are the whistleblowers. And therefore that creates a huge advantage. And I think that would be really the breaking point of this project. If we see more performance coming from the companies who have appointed female directors, I think we can promote it a lot.
So in order to observe it scientifically, we need a quota. Without a quota, it's very difficult to scientifically show that addition of women have improved performance. There are many different factors which may have a performance effect. And this is why the experiences of countries where there is a quota, we can see the changes in company performances, and because of these studies on the countries where there was a quota shows us that women improve the governance quality of the companies that are not well governed, although they may not have such an effect on companies that are already being well governed. At least the result is that putting quotas doesn't really have a negative effect on the performance of sectors or the corporations in general. Gives us a better support for promoting quotas, maybe flexible quotas rather than hard quotas in the legislation. So we do hope that the draft legislation in the European Parliament, which is still not put in the agenda, we hope that that will lead into an umbrella law that would promote the companies, the countries to also legislate quotas, perhaps flexible quotas. One idea is that companies should set their own targets rather than given a target. So we would like to have, or we would like to achieve 25% by the year 2020, and this is how we're going to implement it. So, but pressurizing the companies to set their own targets and to, at their own pace, improve the diversity of the boards may be the right way to move forward. But let's wait and see how it's going to happen.
2 years ago I was against quota, now I'm pro quota. Quota is a must. And I look at quota, not even flexible quota, an absolute term quota. I look at quota as a way of normalization. After a point, if we are like 25–30% in the board, we can get rid of quotas. Because at the time, then people would see the benefits or merits of having female board members. Currently, I don't think there is any way out. We can manage, or maybe, hopefully we will do what we committed ourselves. But at the end, this would be like checking a box. That's what's happening now.
So you think that there is prejudice against women?
I'm not saying there's prejudice against women, but let me exemplify. I always see the same example. I don't think it's prejudice against women. It's more like what we call unconscious bias. If you have 10 CVs in front of you, and 9 of them are male CVs, you start thinking that 90% of the cases I will have a male filling this role. And you don't question why you have 9 male CVs in front of you. So, I'm not saying women are, there's a prejudice against women.
Generate five of each. You're the one generating CVs.
No, what I'm trying to say as an example, when you ask for candidates from your HR for any role,
more men are
exactly. There are more men coming to you, and then you have the flexible or comfort that, okay, then we should most probably appoint a man. So we need to find a way for you, and I'm not putting you on the focus for you to ask why there are so many male CVs but not many female CVs. So give me 5 male, 5 female CVs, and then I'll decide. In order to do that, there has to be an absolute requirement. That's how I look at it.
To support that, one example of how this might work is the president of UN, when he just started his job, he's saying, for every position, I want equal number of female and male candidates. Don't tell me that they're not qualified, just give me the best of the worst qualified, and then I'll make a decision. And only that policy has changed the UN's management gender diversity and led to the establishment of UN Women Department. And I think you have something to say.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that, I mean, we actually have research that shows that people, good people, women too, that we tend to choose people like ourselves. And so when the dominant coalition is male, it's very easy to replace with male. I'm a 1974 graduate of Bağımsız University. I hope you'll say I look much younger than I am. But anyway, so this is a long time. And it's amazing to me how few women we see in upper echelons. I mean, I think we have some good examples here. But I'm also getting, I mean, for the parliament, for example, I'm 100% pro-quota. Because as a citizen, it's my right to have people who look like me in measures. I mean, I think
the job description is very clear.
Absolutely, you know, absolutely there. For the corporate sector, it's a little more problematic because you don't want, you know, you don't want women to have this there because they're women only. But I'm beginning to believe, like, because in Turkey, we're also facing a very crucial next 25 years. We have to develop very quickly, and we have to use more women across the labor force. And I'm afraid if we don't have them at the very top, then you discourage women. We have this problem of women leaving around the time when they're having children. We have to encourage them to stay in. So it's a multi-pronged approach. So that's one side. And another point that actually I wanted to make, which is around international pressures. That's my field, my passion. And I found in my own area, I've been invited to a number of advisory boards in Europe for schools. And I always say, and I know, part of it is Nike. I think part of it is because of who I am. But a huge part of it, some of it's because I'm a woman, and also because I'm from Turkey. Turkey right now, so many countries are interested in our country. Well, I'm going to predict that of our Turkish board-ready women, you are going to begin to get offers from international firms outside of Turkey, and that is going to increase your value in Turkey. So this is my prediction. You say, Nike said it today. How many women do we have now? They're going to get offers, and I hope you will accept them, because I think this will also open our vision. And I think it's going to make you better board members here. This is going to happen.
Currently, there are requests from Ukraine, Slovenia, all countries, but there are requests, especially in the banking sector, to appoint Turkish women on their boards.
Statistics on the top management, besides the boards, the general manager and the general manager level in Turkish companies, what's the percentage of women?
I think 22, 20,
it's pretty high.
It's pretty high. It's pretty high because we don't see women having a problem in getting promoted to middle-level management positions. And when you compare it with some of the European countries like Holland, where I live, it's surprising to see how much women actually are in middle-level management position and even general management position. Because we have something that's unique to our country. When we have children, our mothers take care of them. So in many other countries, the tax system and the social structure and the social care legislation do not support women working, unfortunately. We have this lack. First of all, working is not considered to be something bad. I mean, women are encouraged to work. Families encourage their daughters, their daughter-in-laws to work. And they are willing to sacrifice some of their time to take care of the babies. We don't see that in European countries, and that's why in many European countries, women drop out when they have their first baby. So that gives an opportunity to Turkish women to come up to the level of the board. We always see a correlation at every management level to the level next. So, entry level, we don't see any prejudice. Women and men graduates, they have equal opportunity. And as they go up, there is always a correlation between the percentage of women and the percentage of women at the next level. At the board level, we lose that correlation. There's no correlation. Just as you said, in your bank, no women on the board, like 54% women. So the glass ceiling, if we can refer to it as such, is at the board level in Turkey. And with this project, if we can, and with other projects around the same topic, if we can overcome that, I think Turkey can really rise as a star in Europe, when women empowerment is a very key, important theme. And Turkey is doing a lot in that respect, and we can easily export our women to European boards because they need women and they don't have them.
Just because of that, Turkey is in an advantageous position because we have 23%, as you said, top management of women, and they have a big potential to be corporate governance trend in general, and that's going to happen. I can tell you an example. We set up a bank in Switzerland I think it was 1991, and the second general manager or the third general manager that we appointed that bank was a Turkish woman, and she was the first ever general manager appointed in Switzerland to any bank in the history of Switzerland. So, and banking sector is the most conservative sector in Europe. It's very difficult for women to go up to the top levels. Forget about the board, but to the top management. In Turkey, it's the other way around. We had general managers of the banks in Turkey. We had CIA, ran so many years for HSBC, and other women at the top assistant general manager level. So these are high potential. We have the material and we have the resources to appoint them. And that change is going to happen with the next generation of, let's say, the fathers are retiring, the second generation is coming into the organization, or the third generation. This is going to definitely happen.
Absolutely. So therefore, we are very much for reduce draft law to be accepted in the parliament. This will open up the workplaces for Turkish women, because as I said, I think in Europe, in many countries, there isn't enough working women in the management positions that can qualify for the board. So if there is a quota, they would need to look more internationally. And then Turkish women, I think, would have a better chance.
Is there any country where there is a quota for parliament?
Yes, of course. I think Norway has a parliament.
In Norway, many countries.
The
Parliament, there is more.
Norway,
Parliament,
For the board members, they have 40%, but not for the parliament.
In Rio, there was some Rio plus 20 countries, there was a women roundtable, and a minister from South Africa, a minister of defense. She was addressing the audience, and she was the Minister of Defense. And she said there are 49% of women in the South African Parliament. And she said this is not enough because we are 51% of the population. Okay, well now I open to the floor. Anyone would like to say anything about discussions, any suggestions for our projects before we close? As you say, this discussion is being recorded. And I'm happy that it took place in English so that we can also broadcast this meeting to the international audience. Many international organizations are following up our project very, very closely. I think this project will also take place in PRME's guidebook this year as an example of how universities can contribute to social development. And thank you for all coming and contributing. But again, anyone who would like to add to the discussions?
Maybe one statistic to add to the political discussion. I think Vildan would know it better, but I think there are 50 cities in Turkey who have not yet sent a female member to the parliament out of 81 cities. 50, and we are living in the 19th year of Republic. So I think that gives a signal about where we are in terms of the political representation.
I think the very first parliament in the Republic has the most women.
Percentage-wise, I think.
After that.
Also in the organizations like TUSİAD and the other what do we call it? NGO. The boards are functioning, therefore you see more women there. The criteria is functioning board. If the board is not functioning, you put some ex-generals or
So
old
we
men.
have a headline to the press. If the board is all male,
It's not functioning. This is general. I mean, in general,
If you want a functioning board, appoint a woman.
Right, there is no causal relationship, but if there is no woman, we may say that it has a potential to improve.
don't quote me because there is no woman on our board yet.
We will wait until next year after we appoint a female member, then we can say that. Well, thank you very much for coming. I think this is a very discussion. Thank you very much. All the best to Sema